Jesus said, "Greater love has no one than this." Episode 3 opens in a landing zone where courage is costly and hesitation can kill. But it doesn't stay there. The story widens into the unseen realm, into a heavenly courtroom where accusations are weighed, destinies are sorted, and boundaries are set. You're listening to the Positive Apocalypse Trilogy. Let's begin.
Chapter 5. Leave no man behind. Greater love has no one than this. Katie heard the two Apache pilots talking in her helmet earphones. They'd seen a commotion and a cloud of gray smoke in the LZ, but weren't sure what had happened. She turned her transmit selector knob to UHF and said, "Viper 3-1, this is Dustoff 2-3.
Dustoff 2-3, what's your status? We saw an explosion near you."
Our status? She quickly surveyed her aircraft instruments and the warning light panel. Amazing. The aircraft still was alive, despite its trauma. Readings for both engines look normal. The main rotor is still turning overhead. This thing might still fly. Viper 3-1, we've been hit by an RPG. Our pilot is dead. Aircraft status is unknown. I'm seeing some warning lights, but nothing critical. As soon as our packs are loaded, we'll see if we can fly. Stand by. Above the engine noise, she heard a crew chief shouting frantically at her to get them out of the LZ. She pressed the intercom button on her control stick. "Have we got all our packs?" No answer. The intercom must be out. She turned to look behind her to see if both patient stretchers were loaded. Yes, they're both loaded, and the crew members are all on board. They were frantic, but she didn't notice any obvious injuries on them. As she turned back toward the front to prepare for takeoff, her peripheral vision caught the motion of another American soldier running toward the aircraft, carrying someone over his shoulders. Her crew had been focused on the two stretcher patients and on the carnage in the cockpit, so they hadn't seen them. Wow, that takes a lot of strength. But hurry before another Kurgi pops up with another RPG and finishes us. Desperate, her crew yelled at her.
"Let's go!"
She pointed, directing the crew's attention to the American running toward them. Realizing the cause of her delay, they made room on the Blackhawk's cargo floor. As they waited a long 30 seconds for the two men to reach them, she scanned the instrument panel to prepare for takeoff. Amazing, she thought, except for a few minor caution lights. Everything looks normal. She looked back to see the two soldiers pile onto the Blackhawk's cargo floor. Katie noticed the powerful man's name tag. His name was Salvador. She looked back at the crew chief, nodding and holding her thumb up to ask him if everything was ready. He responded emphatically with 2 thumbs up. She nodded acknowledgement, then turned to face forward, scanning her instruments one last time. Viper 3-1, Dustoff 2-3 is pulling pitch in 5 seconds.
Roger, Dustoff. We've got you in sight.
She focused on the horizon ahead as her left hand slowly pulled up the collective pitch control to lift them to a momentary 3-foot hover. It feels normal. If it'll hover, it'll fly. With that assurance, she pulled takeoff power, and the Black Hawk quickly sped up and away from the LZ. After climbing to 2,000 feet, she transmitted, "Viper 3-1, request you lead us back to base as a 3-ship, taking care of the navigation and radios."
Roger that, Dustoff. Viper 3-1 is passing you on your right. You can follow me home. Viper 3-2 will follow behind you to monitor your aircraft status on the way back.
Viper 3-1, thanks. Following behind Viper 3-1, she started to believe they might make it home to FOB freedom. As her adrenaline ebbed, the pain in her face and left arm increased. Her left sleeve was shredded and blood-soaked. And when she wiped her left cheek with the back of her right hand, she winced in pain and blood saturated her glove. That's not good, she thought. But worry about your face later. Focus on flying. The trailing Apache pilot radioed,
"Dustoff 2-3, this is Viper 3-2. Be advised you're starting to trail white smoke."
Katie responded, "Viper 3-2, thanks. Oil pressure looks a little low, but still in the green. Let me know if you see any fire." A few minutes later,
Dust-off 2-3, you're cleared to land near the medical center. Ambulances will wait nearby to offload your packs. Follow me into a grassy area where you can land and shut down. Ambulances will come to you.
Katie replied. Roger, thanks. FOB Freedom's tower controller cleared the airspace of other traffic so the 3 choppers could fly straight to Katie's landing spot. Viper 3-1 led Katie steadily down in altitude, crossing 500 feet over FOB Freedom's runway, down to a vacant grassy area where she landed. As soon as their forward airspeed stopped, white smoke enveloped them, but the main rotor quickly dissipated it, like a big fan, after Katie shut down both engines. Ambulances and fire trucks arrived before her rotor blades stopped. As medics and firemen ran to the Black Hawk, Katie flung her door open, unfastened her seatbelt and shoulder harness, and took a deep breath. Her mind and body relaxed for the first time since tie-down interrupted her breakfast. A medic stepped up to her open door. When she turned her head to look at him, he looked away, with revulsion. Katie was beautiful, like her Aunt Sarah, so she was accustomed to catching men gazing at her, but she'd never seen this response. Wow, it must be bad. He collected his composure, then looked back toward her and said,
Ma'am, you need to come with me to the clinic. You'll need to get checked out.
Him first, Katie ordered, pointing her left thumb at Tie-Down's corpse. The medic didn't argue. She watched him gently unbuckle Tie-Down's seatbelt. Then, 2 medics removed Tie-Down's corpse, laying it reverently into a black body bag on the grass. When the medic returned, she tried to lift herself out of her seat, but her arms and legs had little strength. 2 medics steadied her as she stepped down from her copilot seat. Then they supported her arms as she wobbled to a nearby ambulance. At the hospital, when the doctor saw Katie's face, he said,
Ouch! That's going to leave a mark.
Katie thought, real good bedside manner. He had her lay back and laid a cloth over her eyes. She felt him inject something in 4 places around the left side of her face, an anesthetic, she assumed. After a couple of minutes, her face was numb. The doctor started cleaning the wound and stitching. Katie didn't feel the suture needle when it punctured her cheek, but she felt it when he pulled her head off the pillow 22 times. She still hadn't seen the wound. As she laid there, she wondered, am I going to look like Frankenstein when this is over? When he was finally done, he helped her sit upright and handed her a mirror. She saw 22 stitches closing an ugly, jagged, diagonal gash down her left cheek. Looks like Miss America is no longer an option for me. Eh, Doc?
Sadly, you may be right. Too bad. You might have won, depending on your talent competition. What's your talent?
Does helicopter pilot extraordinaire count?
I don't think so. Too hard to show on stage. Let's fix your arm next.
After numbing her arm, she watched him probe for and remove an inch-long piece of shrapnel from the Cleanatalk clan tattoo encircling her left forearm. She saw Captain Barry approaching her.
Polka, weren't you supposed to be grounded until you learned the local SOPs?
Before she could process a response, he said,
Just kidding. Good job.
Staff Sergeant Ethan Salvador, the strong Green Beret medic that carried the man into her helicopter, was waiting for his shrapnel surgery on a cot nearby to her right. He heard the conversation with Captain Barry and saw her tattoo. With no other apparent injuries, the doctor prescribed her a round of antibiotics and released her to ride back to her squadron with Captain Barry. Seeing that she was about to leave, Ethan Salvador gently grabbed her right forearm and said,
Thank you. I'd either be dead or captured if you hadn't waited.
How's your buddy?
He was already dead, but like you, I didn't leave him behind.
FOB Freedom Theater, January 5th. With outdoor temperatures well below freezing, Katie's squadron commander, Major Strickner, convened the entire squadron for a mandatory memorial and awards formation inside FOB Freedom's theater. 150 officers and enlisted men and women gathered at 1300 hours for the event. All wore xylovirus masks and tried to observe social distancing requirements. First, the commander eulogized Tie-Down.
Lieutenant Marion Horowitz was a fine officer and aviator who sacrificed his life saving others. He will be missed. His wife will receive Bronze Star and Purple Heart medals in his honor.
The squadron bugler played taps, and everyone observed a moment of silence. Then Major Strickner called Katie, who formally presented herself on the stage, facing the commander at attention. Her xylovirus face mask almost covered her swollen stitches. He read this citation.
Warrant Officer 1. Katarina Whitefeather is hereby awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross with Valor Device. While assigned to C Squadron 2nd Battalion, 117th Aviation Regiment at Forward Operating Base Freedom, Kyjiristan, Warrant Officer Whitefeather demonstrated heroism and exceptional skill while piloting a medical evacuation flight in the Tangier Valley. While loading wounded soldiers, an enemy combatant fired a rocket-propelled grenade into her helicopter, instantly killing the pilot and wounding WO-1 Whitefeather. Miss Whitefeather's heroic performance under enemy fire, along with her skills as an aviator, saved the lives of her patients and her crew. She is truly deserving of the Distinguished Flying Cross.
The commander pinned 2 medals on Katie's uniform, the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Purple Heart. She saluted the commander, then exited the stage. In Katie's quarters. After receiving her medals, she went directly back to her room and locked the door. One of the few benefits of being the squadron's only female officer was that Katie didn't have to share her living quarters. Like a small hotel room, she had a bed, a desk and chair, a laptop with an internet connection, and a private bathroom. Her few pictures included her Uncle Andy, Buster, their cabin, Andy's plane, and the view of their cove from his front porch. She sat quietly at the desk, thinking, "What's wrong with me? Why am I so conflicted? I'm glad to be alive, and I'm proud to be awarded a DFC. Given the circumstances, I think I earned it." That's the problem. I'm proud of the DFC, and that makes me feel guilty because Tie-Down's death put me in the situation to earn it. But I didn't choose what happened to Tie-Down, so I shouldn't feel guilty about it. I'm not responsible for what happened to him. I had no part in it. 0. Besides, if that RPG would have been aimed 1 millimeter to the left, I'd be the one in a body bag and Tie-Down would get the DFC. It's the chance we all take. Does God choose who lives and dies in these situations? If he does, what's his criteria? Questions like that make my brain hurt. Some things we can't know. But I do know that if I'm living in communion with the Lord, death doesn't matter. I have nothing to fear from death if it takes me back to that beautiful meadow forever. In the meantime, do everything as unto the Lord, and choose to follow the truth in every situation. So, don't think about it. Just do your job, enjoy flying, and keep doing what's right every day. Good talk with myself, she said, smiling. She unlocked the door, put on her xylovirus mask, and ate a solemn dinner with T-Bar and Shrek at the mess hall. Later that night, Katie lay awake in her quarters, her thoughts drifting to all that had happened since the RPG attack. Her personal journey from catastrophe to battlefield glory felt like part of something larger, as if unseen forces were at work behind the scenes of everyday life. As she drifted off to sleep, she had no way of knowing that at that very moment, in the spiritual realm, forces were gathering to determine the fate of mankind.
Chapter 6. God's Counsel in Heaven. 3 boxes before the throne. Daniel 7:9-10 says, "As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened." Early in the 20th century. On Yom Kippur, the holiest day on God's calendar, the angelic sons of God came to present themselves before Yahweh in the council of heaven. At the appointed time, an angel sounded a trumpet to announce the Almighty's presence among his divine council. Everyone faced the throne and bowed their heads. When the angel sounded his trumpet again, everyone looked up to see Yahweh enthroned in glory on his throne. As an archangel, Ariel was privileged to stand toward the front of thousands of celestials gathered in heaven's great assembly. His eyes followed one figure, Satan, as the devil walked up the dirt path from his dark celestial domain. Satan came into heaven's light, then passed the court scribe's table and approached the Father's throne. The Almighty's throne was in the center of heaven's 24 elders, seated in a semicircle, 12 on God's left and 12 on his right. Dressed in a tailored Italian three-piece suit, Satan looked more like a mafia godfather or a billionaire CEO than the Prince of Darkness. Ariel watched closely as the devil's dark, piercing gaze seemed to fix on each of the 12 elders to his right as he passed them on his way up toward Yahweh's throne. Finally, Satan turned his gaze toward the throne, but he didn't dare look up into God's face. Waiting to the devil's left in front of the throne stood Yeshua, radiant in glory. Both faced the Almighty. Ariel saw the council's scribes seated at a small wooden table. On it were a pen, a book, and 3 small wooden boxes. On top of the first box, he saw a bright red light shining. Over the second box, a dim white light shone. There was no light over the third box. Looking at the third box, Ariel thought,
"Perhaps this will be the day when the third box's light shines. Amen. May it be so."
The Divine Council in session. The council herald stood next to the scribe's table. When all parties were in place, he proclaimed loudly, so that all could hear,
"The council of Yahweh is now in session."
Ariel heard God address Satan, saying,
"Do you have any accusations requiring this court's decision?"
Satan responded,
"Yes, I have many, which, for efficiency's sake, I will present in related batches. A total of 56,756,231 humans died in the year since our last court session."
The lost. Satan held up a paper.
Exactly 37,459,112 of the dead had no relationship with your Son before their death. None ever confessed faith in him, nor were any of them baptized. Your Bible says, all have sinned. Therefore, this court must decree these 37,459,112 souls be put into the scribe's first box.
God looked down at Yeshua and said,
"Is Satan's information correct? Do you have any objection to his motion to mark these 37,459,112 dead souls as lost?"
Ariel saw Yeshua shake his head, sadly saying,
"I cannot object. The number is correct. I don't know them."
After verifying the 24 elders' agreement, Yahweh said,
"The Divine Council's consensus is these 37,459,112 names shall be put into the scribe's first box."
Immediately, the scribe took the list from Satan, then opened the first box and put the names into it. Ariel clenched his fists in angry frustration when he saw Satan gloating as the red light grew brighter. Christians? With last year's lost souls dispositioned, Satan turned around to address the judge.
Next, 19,297,119 humans died this year who may have confessed some kind of faith in your Son during their lifetime. Of these, I claim 15,095,351 are not covered by your protection because 10,076,089 souls made a lip service confession of faith sometime in their life, but there's no evidence they ever got born again. Therefore, they were never members of your kingdom. Their continuously sinful lifestyle attested they were always members of my earthly world system. In addition, 5,019,262 of the dead were Jesus plus believers. Some part of their faith may have been in your Son, but they also added their own good works to his.
The devil made hand gestures for air quotes when he said the words, good works. He continued,
Therefore, you must add their names to the first box. Otherwise, if you add them to the second box, they'll brag for eternity how their own good works contributed to their salvation. For these reasons, the court should adjudicate these 15,095,351 as lost, and outside your protection.
Satan concluded, saying,
I rest my case against these so-called believers.
Again, the Father looked down at Yeshua and said,
Is the accuser's information correct, or can you claim any of these souls?
Yeshua responded,
In this matter, the accuser is not correct. Of the 15,095,351 souls in this group, my blood covers 2,472 souls who were born into my kingdom before they died.
Yeshua lifted a paper.
Here are their names. They're mine.
When Ariel saw the devil wince, he thought,
That was stupid. Yeshua knows every one of his people.
Addressing the accuser, God said,
Can you rebut this claim regarding these 2,472?
The devil looked down and shook his head to admit he couldn't. Then, after verifying the 24 elders' agreement, Yahweh said,
The Divine Council's consensus is 15,092,879 names shall be put into the scribe's first box, and 2,472 names shall be put into the second box.
Immediately, the scribe took the names from Satan and Yeshua. He put the lists in their respective boxes. Now, both the red and white lights ebbed brighter. Ariel thought,
Now we're getting to the good part.
Christians. Looking at Yeshua, Satan said,
The remaining 4,201,768 souls who died last year all claim to be part of your spiritual kingdom, and therefore outside my jurisdiction. However, I have evidence that none of them lived a sinless life. This group includes many who were murderers, idolaters, occultists, adulterers, and homosexuals. None were perfected to your level of holiness before they died. Therefore, to prevent polluting heaven with these defiled creatures, you should place their names in the first box, where they'll rest until their final judgment.
Yeshua responded to the Almighty Judge,
My blood covers these 4,201,768 souls.
Ariel leaned forward to hear what Yeshua would say next. Martyrs. Yeshua turned towards Satan, looking him in the eye. The devil wouldn't meet his gaze. Instead, Satan looked at Yeshua's feet. Yeshua said,
Now it's my turn to accuse. Among my 4,201,768 disciples who died last year, you murdered 19,297 holy ones who would not renounce their faith in me or my word, regardless of what you did to them. They committed no crime. They were blameless and innocent. Can you provide this court any evidence why any of these 19,297 names should not be added to the third box?
Satan continued looking down. Jesus said,
I command you to answer.
Satan cowered, answering sheepishly,
No.
Yahweh verified the 24 elders' agreement. Then he said,
The Divine Council's consensus is 4,182,471 names shall be put in the second box, and 19,297 names shall be put into the third box.
Immediately, the scribe took the two lists from Yeshua. He put the lists into the second and third boxes, respectively. The second box's white light brightened. Every eye watched to see if the third box's light would light up. After a few seconds, Satan visibly breathed a sigh of relief when it didn't. Ariel thought to himself,
It looks like Satan's got another year.
Satan released to deceive the nations. The judge addressed Satan.
Do you have any further business for this court?
Satan responded,
Yes, I have one last question. Should I assume my boundaries for testing mankind are unchanged for the coming year?
Ariel watched the judge visually poll each elder one by one. Each one nodded in silent agreement toward the judge. Ariel's anticipation heightened. He'd attended over 1,900 council meetings since Yeshua's resurrection, but something different was happening now. The judge then responded to Satan,
As you know, we are approaching the 6,000th year of this creation. The start of the seventh-day millennium is upon us. Therefore, with the end of this age approaching, the council is removing your restriction against deceiving the nations.
To Ariel, the devil's face looked like he just won the lottery. Ever since the Messiah's resurrection, Satan has been bound, restricting him from deceiving the nations. But after almost 2,000 years, God's divine counsel just freed the devil to restore his unified control over all nations. The Almighty continued,
Regarding your boundaries for testing mankind. 1. You may not cause more than half of mankind to die. 2. I delegated authority over the earth to mankind, not to you. Therefore, you have no direct authority over any nation or ethnic group. You only have the authority that humans willingly give you. 3. You may violate no one's free will by forcing them to renounce truth through mind control or drugs.
Ariel could see the wheels turning in the devil's mind. There's so much he can do within those boundaries. Angelic monitors and consequences. The Almighty added,
To ensure compliance with these 3 rules, godly angels will be assigned to monitor your kingdom's activities on the earth. They will not interfere with your operations, but they'll report your activities to this council. Any violation of these rules will result in this council's judgment against the offender, and possibly against you as their leader, as this council deems appropriate. Is that understood?
Yes, I understand.
The Almighty said,
You're dismissed from this assembly.
Without another word, the devil turned and strutted out, taking the dirt path back down to his dark celestial domain. The Almighty asked,
Does anyone else have business with the council?
No one spoke up.
In that case, this annual Divine Council session is adjourned.
The angel sounded a trumpet blast, and everyone stood facing the Almighty, their heads bowed reverently, including Yeshua and the 24 elders. When the trumpet sounded again, the Almighty was gone. Ariel's assignment. Ariel saw Yeshua walking toward him. The archangel bowed reverently as the Lord approached. Yeshua said,
Ariel, my brother and faithful friend, you heard the Divine Council's directive?
Yes, Lord, I heard it.
Good. I want you to shadow Satan whenever he's on the earth. Please assign angels to monitor all of Satan's hierarchy and operations regarding the boundaries the Council just set. Finally, establish a communication and reporting network to communicate with, and get reports from all the angels under your command.
Yes, Lord, I will do it.
Yeshua said,
Soon our brethren on earth will overcome, and the third box will shine its light.
Amen. Let it be so.
Satan convenes the archons. Ariel observed as Satan's executive council received their orders. In the devil's locale of heaven, Satan, dapper as ever, prepared to make his annual address to his executive council of evil principalities and powers. Before him stood the 70 archons who rule the 70 principalities of the earth, and hundreds of evil angelic authorities.
Comrades, welcome to this historic meeting of the Blood Brothers clan. Why do I say historic?
He paused as his audience all leaned forward in anticipation.
Today, our shackles are removed. We're now all free to restore our kingdom on the earth. We're free to gather all nations under our control.
The crowd responded with whoops and hollers, whistles, applause, and shouting. Ariel thought,
What a bunch of animals. There's no unity in this bunch. Each one only cares for himself.
After the whooping subsided, Satan continued,
The big guy gives us free rein to rule the nations. He only gave us 3 rules. We can only kill half of humanity, no more.
More whoops and hollers.
Second, we have to deceive mankind into giving us authority to rule them.
A husky, tattooed, biker-looking devil yelled, What's new about that? Satan continued,
And third, don't use drugs or mind control to violate their free will.
At that, the biker devil yelled, No problem. 90% will do anything our government and media puppets tell them to do. We'll just kill the other 10% and still have 40% to use as examples for anyone who gets out of line. Duh. After the hollering subsided again, Satan continued,
1 month from now, I want you 70 archons to meet me here to discuss my detailed plan. This plan will include how we'll centralize governments, economies, media, and religion under our control within the next 70 years. Here's a preview. On the international level, we'll set up our one world government through 10 regional kings. We'll centralize our control over all economic, media, and religions to herd all humans into secular compliance. We'll use wars, famines, pandemics, delusions, and perversions to make the nations follow us and reject God. On the individual level, we'll turn the masses against God's followers. We'll test Christians in every way possible. Most will compromise, joining the crowd to save their skin. Only a few won't comply. We'll hunt them down and kill them as examples to the rest.
The crowd chanted in unison, thrusting fists into the air. Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Hail Satan! As Satan's council adjourned, their dark plans began touching every corner of the earth, in legislation passed, in hearts hardened, in choices forced. And one young pilot was about to feel the first tremors of these changes.
Chapter 7. 2 children lost. The voice of the accuser. FOB Freedom, Squadron Dining Hall, March 18th. Katie walked from her quarters to her squadron's dining hall under a bright, cloudless blue sky. The temperature was 45 degrees with a gentle, dry breeze. Inside, she saw T-Bar and Shrek at their usual table. T-Bar waved her over. She acknowledged him with a nod, then went through the line to select her lunch. Roast beef, mashed potatoes and gravy, green beans, bread and butter, black coffee. As she neared their table, T-Bar greeted her.
Hey, Polka. No whale blubber today?
She sat and removed her xylovirus mask, folding it into her shirt pocket. No, but that's a good idea. I'll have to write that suggestion on a critique form. Looking at Katie, Shrek said,
Hey, have you heard about the new xylovirus screening requirement?
No, what is it?
DoD just made it mandatory to get a negative xylovirus test within 48 hours of deploying or returning from deployment.
In between bites, Katie said, That doesn't sound too bad. Probably a good idea.
That's what I thought too, but Mr. Conspiracy Theorist here makes more of it.
T-Bar jumped in.
Yeah, they're pushing the vaccine more and more. A year ago, it was mandatory masks and social distancing. Now it's mandatory xylovirus testing before travel. Soon it'll be mandatory vaccines. With the president's 70% vaccination goal, you can see where this is going. The government owns us. We're their property. So you can bet a mandatory jab is coming.
Why is the vaccine bad? If it keeps you from getting really sick or dying, what's the problem with it? T-Bar looked at his left index finger as he held it up.
First, it's not well tested. The government allowed drug companies to rush it into production without the normal drug testing safeguards. They said they didn't have time to do the double-blind trials that could take years.
Looking at 2 raised fingers, he continued.
Second, what's this mRNA? It's not a normal vaccine. It's some kind of experimental genetic DNA manipulation. Sounds scary to me, especially when it's been rushed into production.
Shrek added,
I've been reading about it. Some people think it could make you sterile. People in the test group had blood clots. Others had a swollen heart.
Not interested in the topic, Katie continued eating. T-Bar responded,
Sterile? Maybe we ought to look on the bright side. No baby Shreks.
Shrek raised his giant arm as if to smash T-Bar like a bug. T-Bar cowered.
Just kidding.
Katie said, There's no requirement for us to get the vaccine now. Maybe a little more time will give us better information about its safety.
Yeah, good thinking.
Katie finished her dinner. As she sipped her coffee, she said, My uncle stays informed about these things. I'll ask him what he thinks about it. FOB Freedom, June 22nd. Katie and her crew were on standby when the alarm bell notified them of a mission. An explosion wounded a juvenile girl in a friendly village. Katie got the mission details while her co-pilot and crew readied her Black Hawk for flight. As she ran to the chopper, the hot, dry air made it hard to breathe. Feels like the inside of an oven. At the aircraft, she briefed her crew. We're going to a friendly village to pick up a Kyrgyz girl who's been hurt in an explosion. She pulled a water bottle out of a box on the cargo floor and guzzled half the bottle. Everybody stay hydrated.
Yes, ma'am,
The crew chief said as he grabbed a bottle. From the left seat, she gave her co-pilot the coordinates and contact frequency, saying, Tex, plug these in, please. As he did, she started the aircraft from memory, just as tie-down had done. During the last 6 months, Katie quickly ascended from co-pilot to aircraft commander. She loved this moment in every flight, the feeling of her aircraft coming to life under her command. The sound of the engines and electronics, the sight of the dials awakening inside the cockpit and the main rotor accelerating overhead, the vibrations of 1,000 synchronized parts in her seat, pedals, and flight controls. As she rolled the throttle up to full power, she felt fulfilled. This is what God created me to do. I love it. She had proven herself. Her entire squadron respected her as a skillful and courageous medevac pilot. She looked forward to returning to Ketchikan, having earned the same glory and honor her uncle Andy enjoyed. She'll be respected by her entire clan, especially by the native kids she hoped to mentor. An American medic waited near the village and guided Katie to a safe landing spot. He helped Katie's medic load the injured girl into the Black Hawk, then he jumped on board to accompany her back to FOB Freedom's hospital. Her clothes were tattered, as if from a blast. She wailed in misery, and Katie smelled burned flesh. Empathizing with the girl's suffering, Katie felt herself getting emotional. Don't look back. She forced herself to focus her attention ahead and didn't look back for the rest of the flight. She tuned her navigation radio to a local Armed Forces Network radio station, then turned up the volume until she couldn't hear the girl's cries. The station was playing jazz, which she didn't like, but it was better than the alternative. When they landed at the hospital helipad, the two medics quickly carried the wounded girl into the hospital. Back at her squadron's parking area, Katie and her crew inspected, refueled, and prepped the aircraft for its next mission. Something about this girl gnawed at Katie's soul. She decided when her shift was over, she'd go to the hospital to check on her. FOB Freedom Hospital, June 22nd. Staff Sergeant Ethan Salvador stood next to the 5-year-old girl's bed, first adjusting her IV, then stroking the unconscious girl's forehead. He'd accompanied the girl in Katie's helicopter. He heard the nurse behind him say,
Hi, Polka.
Ethan turned to see Katie, who'd come to see how the girl was doing. He felt glad to see her again, though she obviously didn't remember him. Katie stood on the other side of the girl's bed. Katie loosened her xylovirus mask, letting it hang from her left ear. She gently touched the girl's hand and whispered, Isa and Yashviak Yaswe, which he knew meant, May Jesus heal you, in Arabic. When Ethan saw the 3-inch scar on Katie's left cheek, he remembered the first time he saw Katie, when she saved him in the Tanger Valley. Then, it was a gaping, open wound. He remembered the doctor's words.
Yes, She could have been Miss America before she got that scar.
As she turned to leave, he said,
هل تتحدث العربية?
which means, do you speak Arabic? Un poco, she said, looking directly at him for the first time.
How's the shrapnel wound in your tattoo healing?
Slightly shocked, she looked at his name tag. Salvador. He saw the light of recognition on her face as she remembered his name. It's healing nicely, but it left a scar. She pulled up her left sleeve to show him.
What kind of tattoo is that?
I'm a Clinitalk from Ketchikan, Alaska. This is my tribal clan tattoo. He read her name, Katie Whitefeather, embossed under her pilot wings.
I heard the nurse call you Polka. Does that bother you?
No, I'm proud of my native heritage. Besides, it could have been worse. Some of the names they call each other are pretty cruel. For me, they easily could have settled on Squaw or now Scar. So Polka isn't too bad. She replaced her xylovirus mask covering the scar.
Do you visit all your medevac patients?
No, but this one touched my heart, reminding me of someone. It's so needless, so unfair. I'm afraid to ask. What's her prognosis? Ethan looked down at the girl's face. Her blackened epidermis was peeling, revealing the pink dermis layer underneath. His voice quivered.
She won't make it. She's too badly burned. I knew both her and her parents. Her father was the village chief. They were good people, and Susie, that's what we call her, was so full of life. She always had a smile.
How did it happen?
A U.S. Army patrol caught a couple of Kyrgyz planting a bomb in the road near the village. There was a brief firefight, and a stray bullet must have hit the propane tank in their house, causing it to explode. Her parents and brother died instantly in the house when it collapsed on them, but Susie was outside. The explosion burned her from head to toe, and the concussion sent her flying. I got to her quickly after the explosion, but there wasn't much I could do to help her or to ease her pain. That's when I called for medevac.
That's terrible. Ethan shook his head.
Yeah, I'm sick of this war and all the mindless, uncaring waste of innocent human life. And for what? I was a gung-ho Green Beret when I came here. I bought into the propaganda. We were supposed to be the good guys.
Susie moaned, delirious. He continued his rant.
You and I came here to help people, but we're both pawns of evil people that don't care about us or about Susie and her family. They don't care about freedom or democracy either. Those are just words they use to manipulate us. They only care about power and money.
Ethan could see Katie was shocked at his emotional, unpatriotic outburst. She apparently didn't share his feelings or his conclusions.
When my enlistment ends in September, I've decided not to re-enlist. I want to use my paramedic skills on medevac choppers back in the States.
She walked to him, looked him in the eye, and put her hand on his shoulder. You'll be a good one. Katie's quarters, June 22nd. Katie closed the door behind her, the click of the latch sounding final. Desert heat seeped through the walls despite the constant whirring of the window-mounted air conditioner. The air was dry, unlike the tears forming in her eyes. What's bothering me? Why do I feel so conflicted? She moved to the small desk by the window, where the relentless sun filtered through a thin curtain, casting long, distorted shadows across the room. It was June, and the desert outside her window was an expanse of relentless, undulating waves of heat. The brown landscape was desolate, much like how she felt inside. The small cross on her desk caught the sunlight, casting a glow that seemed to beckon her. It was a simple thing, made of brass, but it embodied a truth she was still learning to comprehend. It spoke of sacrifice and redemption. Then Katie realized the source of her tears. My baby would have been about Susie's age, full of innocence, with her whole life ahead of her. But neither Susie nor my child will have a life. Their lives were ended by others, through no choice of their own. In Susie's case, it was an accident of war, a stray bullet. But in my child's case, it was my selfishness and desperation. I killed it. What if I'd kept my baby, becoming a single mother, unemployed, and living on welfare? I'd be poor, with no economic future, but my baby would have its life. But, unlike Jesus, I wasn't willing to sacrifice myself for another, not even my own child. She silently prayed, God, I can't change the past, and I can't bring back the life I discarded. Please forgive me. A voice in her mind accused her, saying,
Sure, now you're sorry. After there are no consequences remaining, you got the career you wanted, with no baby to tie you down, and now you want forgiveness too. What a hypocrite.
She pulled her Bible towards her. When she opened it, her eyes landed on a highlighted passage. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. In her heart, she had an assurance that God was listening. I've carried this guilt for 5 years, too afraid or too ashamed to confess it. I know I don't deserve it, but today I ask for your forgiveness. Let Jesus' blood cover my sins and give me the strength to live for you from now on. Deep in her heart, she sensed an intuitive assurance that God had heard and granted her prayer. Katie remained still, basking in the light and love of God's holy presence. When she opened her eyes, the last rays of the sun cast a gentle glow across her face, as if in answer to her plea. A fragile sense of peace settled in her soul. As she rose, she knew in her heart that God forgave her. For the first time in 5 years, her conscience didn't condemn her. She was born again.
The fiercest battles aren't always fought in the air or on the ground. Sometimes they unfold alone, in the quiet, where no medals are given and no one is watching. In the next episode, the cost of choosing truth begins to rise. Until then, stand in faith.